If you're writing a novel and you've seen words used by other authors in their fantasy realms or in the world building they're creating, are you then allowed to use those words from their mermaid world or for their dragons or for their magical system inside of your book as well? Let's talk to your favorite IP and entertainment lawyer, Tony, to find out more.
My name is Tony Iliakostas. I'm an adjunct professor of entertainment law and IP at New York Law School, and I have an Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok account called The IP Professor that's dedicated to all things intellectual property.
As authors, are we allowed to use terminology that other authors came up with for things like their fantasy books? So words in association with their dragons, words in association with their mermaid culture, their world building, their magical systems. Are we allowed to use these things that other people create, Tony?
So this is a really interesting question because on its face, under copyright law, a standalone word technically wouldn't be the kind of thing that is worthy of copyright protection. And that's mainly because it's not original. It doesn't really meet the criteria of what is normally deemed as a work of authorship in the eyes of the copyright law. So, think of a word like longer. Longer is too generic. That's not going to be worthy of copyright protection. Even down to like the name of a person, that's also not worthy of copyright protection. Names like facts are not worthy of copyright protection. So that's where it kind of gets then a little bit tricky when you're talking about made up words or words that are catered to a specific genre of books that have been come to know and loved by readers or even the author themselves. But all that to say, that's where you have to have that genuine question and ask yourself, could the word individually be worthy of copyright protection? I would venture to say that if, let's say, an author wrote a series of different terminology or words for their books, let's say for a specific book series, that's where probably in the aggregate, that's where it could be worthy of copyright protection. And I want to kind of highlight this with some examples. So we're going to use everybody's favorite children's author, Dr. Seuss, because we all know that he's come up with the wackiest words of all time. And we've heard the words before, right? Gluppity glup. Zizzer Zazzer Zuzz, Lurkum, Geflupt, my personal favorite. And then, of course, words like Zong, Joggons, Opsk. These are words that he clearly made up for the purposes of writing his children's books, because that's the whole point of his books. They're like silly, they're fun, they're like in these weird fantasy made up worlds, but they have a lot of pizzazz to them. That's actually not a made up word. But all that to say, if you're talking about those words, I think those also could be worthy of copyright protection. Maybe in standalone form, but surely in the context of the broader books, whether you're talking about Cat in the Hat, the Lorax, redfish, greenfish, bluefish, redfish, all of that is the kind of thing where, in the aggregate, that's definitely worthy of copyright protection. So I'm bringing all this up because if you're a reader that loves how the terminology that an author uses, don't be quick to think that that's now in the vernacular, in the public domain that everyone could use. I think the best bet is to do some research to verify if this is a word or a series of words that has been used in other forms of literature. And then basically, once you've deduced that maybe it's not in the public domain, that it's not in the everyday vocabulary for that specific genre, maybe you could do a little bit of research to find out with the author's contact and do some outreach and say, hey, listen, I really love this book series that you did, and you use these words that I really would love to employ in my book series. Is that okay? The worst that they're going to say is no. The best scenario is that they're going to say yes. And you did it by asking. That makes such a big difference. That's a big deal. So I think that that's the proper way to play this. At the end of the day, again, this is all going to depend on whether the word individually or maybe the series of words associated with a book series are worthy of copyright protection. And I think that if you're writing books in the fantasy genre about dragons, goblins, elves, warfare, all that, you create specific terminology, cater to that as an author, you should rest assured knowing that there might be some semblance of copyright protection, again, surely for the whole work. And you would have the ability to protect it in some capacity. And then if you're a reader, just know that the best way to go forward with using that terminology, if you yourself want to write a book, is by asking the author for permission. Just don't think or assume that it's totally okay to go for it. And I'm going to keep it nice and PG, but assume makes a blank out of you and me. So it's always best to not to assume in a scenario like this.
And we love having conversation inside of this industry. So if you do want to use something, Ask permission. Go talk to the author. A lot of times they will want to build this up as part of the culture for whatever part of fantasy they're writing. I myself have written mermaid books where I have designed a very specific language for a lot of the different things that they're wearing and where they're living and what they're doing. And I encourage other authors to use that so we can build that up to make it just a very familiar language around mermaid stories. I give permission. I give it on my website. I give permission on my blog articles. But if you reached out to me, I could then say yes or no as well. So check to see if they've written anywhere that you have permission to use that. Reach out to them, see if that's something that you can be doing, and then go from there as you are writing your stories. And worst case, make up your own words, because we love making up our own words in the fantasy culture.
And trust me, if a Dr. Seuss can do it, you can. I mean, literally, OBSK is OBSK. That's like he just literally looked at a typewriter, made up those words, and he got it done. So it's kind of, and maybe it's a little fun. It's a nice like brain exercise, if anything.
And I will give you this bonus tip, writers. If you are making up words, write a pronunciation guide and put it in the front or the back of your book, because readers go crazy over that, especially in the fantasy realm where we tend to write things with very weird letters put together. So help your readers out. They love it, and it will help in your marketing as well. If you have further questions on this, go ahead and drop those down below. We want to make sure that you are safe and protected in the publishing space. So Tony's coming back for upcoming episodes, and we want to make sure we're getting those questions answered for you. And as always, you can reach out to Tony on his social medias and learn more over on his socials. So Tony, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at the IP Professor, and you can check out my entertainment law podcast called Unseen. New episodes drop every Friday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Drop your questions in the publishing space down below. Tony's coming back for upcoming episodes, and we're dropping daily videos to help you navigate the world of your publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable and stress-free year ever. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.